All right, hello everyone. This is our introduction to using our en route software, which is the software that drives our CNC router. It is a bit cumbersome because there are so many different tools that you can use. If you have any architectural drawing or design background, this may look similar to some of the tools and things that you learned through some of Mr. LeJewett's classes. However, it is a little bit different. So we're going to walk through and I'm going to show you kind of a very brief overview of what we can do with our CNC router if you choose to use it for creating a sign as opposed to a cutting board in this first project. So the only thing that I did differently than what you will see is I just pre-opened the tabs, so it might take a little bit longer for them to load when you first start. Just for the sake of time, I loaded them and minimized the screen. So this is the laptop that is used to run the CNC router. So when you open up the laptop, this is what you're going to see on your first screen, on your open screen. On the bottom at the toolbar, there are several tools that we're going to use for this activity. So the first thing we're going to start with is this little en route icon. It looks like an ER. So we're going to click on that, and it brings you to this blank page. The first thing we need to do is we need to create a new document. So if you go to the upper left-hand corner, where it looks like this piece of paper with the tab folded over, and click on that. This is going to bring us up to an untitled screen, maybe. Okay, so here what we have to do is define our plate. So what the plate is the size of the working surface that we're doing. So the size of your original design, your cutting board size. So for the sake of this, I'm going to make my cutting board 15 inches wide and I'm going to say 16 inches long, just so that you can see a difference. Now please know that depending on the orientation that you put this in the board, the width, even if you put it where it's running up and down, the width is going to be your x-axis as you look at the machine, so from left to right. And the height is going to be your y, so from closest to you to furthest away as we're looking in the machine. All right. Thickness, we're going to be about 3/4 of an inch when we start this. We do not need to worry about where our origin are at the current moment. So we're going to skip that and just click OK. So this red box is my 15 by 16. So this is where we want to put everything that we work in. This is our plate that we've defined at this point. Okay. If you look on the side, there are all kinds of drawing icons that you can use. So we can go in here and we can create a line, multiple lines. Okay, so we can simply draw lines on if you want to put some kind of shapes on. Okay, if we decide that we don't want these, we can just simply highlight them and use the delete button, not the backspace, delete right above backspace, and that'll remove them. So we have some drawing tool options here in the second toolbar along the vertical toolbars. What most of you are going to want to do is drop some kind of logo or decal in here. So we're going to skip ahead to that. To do this, we want to use Internet Explorer. The reason that we use Internet Explorer and not Google Chrome is we're looking for images. So I'm going to go up here to the images. Move me out of the way. And I'm going to click on images. So we're just searching images. What we want is an image that's referred to as a bitmap. And for some reason in Google Chrome, we can't get bitmap images. The other thing that we want to look for are black and white images. Okay, so I'm going to search my Steelers logo in black and white. Okay, so you can see lots of different options here. I'm going to pick this one, so I'm going to right click and I am going to save picture. Now, what I ask is that you make sure you're paying attention to where you save this to. Okay, so go to CNC work and save it in the CNC work folder. So I'm going to change the name, Steelers logo. The other thing I want to do is I want to click on this drop down box and I want to change this to a bitmap. Okay, that's very important. The PNG will not work with our software. So I'm going to change that to a bitmap and save it. Okay. So now I'm done with finding my logo. I'm going back to my en route software and I'm going to go to our blue folder here in the upper left. Click on your blue folder. So now we want to find that CNC work folder. CNC work. Here's our logo. I'm going to click on my logo and I'm going to open it. So here's our logo. Now, just to kind of explain what a bitmap is, if I hold the shift key in and I pick on a corner, I can move that and it's going to open in proportion. If I want this image to kind of take up my whole board, okay, you see how as I start expanding this, it becomes pixelated. We need to eliminate that from happening. So what we're going to do, I'm going to shrink this way down. And the reason we shrink it way down is we want all those pixels as close together as possible. And then we're going to go over here on the left, and this kind of, and it's cut off a little bit, but there's a half gray, half white circle. We're going to click on that. And that's given us this command to vectorize an image. So we're taking that bitmapped image where it's all those dots put together, and we're going to transform that into continuous lines. All right, so we're going to click OK to vectorize that. So the beauty of this software is it's doing some calculations and doing some work, and it's going to give me a second image. So I'm going to delete out the image that I had highlighted, so I'm getting rid of my bitmap image, and I'm going to click on this vectorized image. And now when I shift key and I resize it, you can see I have nice straight continuous lines, no dots, anything to worry about. The problem is because the image kind of had these bubbled letters that we lost kind of the insides of our E's. Our letters are a little bit cut off. So there is some downside to it. The images may not be perfect. However, we can go in and we can kind of draw centers in the E's, or what we can do is we can go up here to transform, and I'm going to ungroup this image. Okay, so what that means is now I can go in and select on individual components of our image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my letters, and I'm going to get rid of those. So I'm going to delete those out. Now I'm going to go over to the left and I'm going to pick on my text tool, and I'm going to type Steelers. Okay, so here's our Steelers. E's are in there. However, this font I don't think works with my design. So I'm going to go down here, and just like any word processing program, you can select through dozens and dozens of different script types. So I'm going to try to find a script that I think works a little bit better. That's pretty good. So I'm going to close out of my text tool. Now that I have my Steelers where you can read it, I'm going to hold my shift and I'm going to resize this. Okay, so that it fits into my design. Now, one of the nice things, even though this script is a little bit small, we can kind of stretch this out a little bit and make the letters a little bit taller. so that it kind of fits into our design. So that looks a little bit better. Put that up a little. Okay. That looks a little better. So now we have our design. It was that easy as kind of a click and point, change it to a bitmap, drop it in. Next, what we have to do is we're going to have to tell the machine what we want to cut. So we can highlight any component, and I'm just going to show you a couple options instead of getting through the whole thing. So we can tell this to just trace these lines, where it would just cut out just the lines. So if we go, where's my cut tool? If we go over to this down arrow with just the solid blue dot, that's the engrave tool, we're going to click on that. Now we need to pick what bit we want to use. So with the CNC router, all the cutting instruments are going to be round. Okay, so a 1/16 inch end mill is a round bit. An 1/8 inch, so that's going to give you how wide the line is that we're cutting. I'm going to pick an 1/8 inch just so we can see it. We then have to tell it how deep we want it to cut. I'm going to do 9/32 of an inch, which is 0.0937. Once I have my depth in here, I'm going to click on engrave so it sets the depth and click OK. So you can see my blue lines turn this kind of burgundy color with the arrows on it. That's the cut path that the machine's going to use. Right? So that's our first option. Our second option, I'm going to click on Steelers, and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on this kind of square that has the lines working to the middle. This is what's called an island fill. Oh, this is telling me now my text is being converted to curve. So kind of like what we did with the image when we turned it from a bitmap image to a vector image, this is changing our letters into lines so that the machine can read them. Click OK. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to pick the same bit to use and the same depth. Click on Fill to set it, and I'm going to click OK. So now, instead of the burgundy lines, we have all these purple lines. So the bit's just going to follow those lines and cut the center out of those letters to give us a solid cut image. So real quick, only because I'm kind of running short on time with my record option here, I'm going to give you a quick kind of what this looks like. So if I go to machining, I can simulate this. I'm going to go to simulate 2D, and I'm just going to click the fast forward button, and this is showing us what that's going to cut out. So you can see with our stars, we're just cutting out lines, just tracing the lines, and with our letters, we're cutting out everything that's inside of this. All right. So now all this other area is going to be raised up or be the same surface, and we're going to cut away everything that's been highlighted. That's a very quick overview of what we can do with the CNC router. I just wanted to do this for an introduction so that if you're thinking that you might want to do a sign but you're a little bit worried because it's really hard to use, hopefully this shows you that it is extremely user-friendly. We can use the internet to get logos and to design these things. You don't have to draw it in all by yourself. We can do some manipulation. Again, this is just an introduction. There's a lot more that we can do, and I will help you if you choose to work through this. Let me know what you think. Talk to you later.